Hello and welcome back to the channel. So I do want to look at this video by Jubilee, and I've been meaning to cover a couple of things. It's ranking men in 5 different ways, and one of those sections is facial attractiveness, which is, a whole thing. So definitely want to talk about that there. But there's also some other aspects that I see a lot of people getting confused about. So I do want to make some clarifications. But anyway, less talking, let's get into it.
I'm the shortest, so.
Well,
Are we really going based on height? You have to call yourself out like
If
that.
we go based on height, we're gonna look like the AT&T bars. Like we're just gonna go up.
Honestly, I was gonna rank you higher up because I like the tattoos, and I think
That's
that
what I was gonna
counts
say.
as your
I
body.
think the tattoos like deserve a higher spot.
Yeah.
I'm looking at chest. You have the biggest chest as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Wow.
I would
go to the
say
gym,
you
right?
two would like go like
I
one
feel
and
like
two.
it's definitely
for me.
like 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
My leg does play a huge role in my confidence in myself, and that's a big reason why I'm so heavily tattooed, is to draw more attention away from my leg.
You are going over there.
Yeah. I know where I
I
wanna
feel like
go.
you two definitely go over there.
Okay.
What side do you want me on?
You are way bigger than you got the arms, like basically Chris Hemsworth. So over there. I say Vashan.
Okay.
For those
I
calves.
think, yeah.
I feel like Tony might be number 2, just because I feel
You know what's interesting about this, to me at least, is that it's common to think from, Instagram and social media in general that most men are completely jacked. They look like a fitness influencer. But when you actually look at the statistics, very few men actually have any kind of decent physical muscularity. Like from this Korean population study, out of 14,000 people, the population that actually goes to the gym is still around 28%. And Korea is one of the more gym-going nations. In Western nations, actually is a lot lower. So you need to realize that you're not really competing against pro-level athletes. The only person you're competing against at the end of the day is just yourself. And this is something that a lot of fitness influencers do talk about, especially to young men, that if you put in some effort at the gym, it's very easy to go past the bell curve of physical musculature. You can surpass the average person very quickly with just a beginner routine. Okay, so regarding the research, there is a particular piece of literature I want to take a look at called Gay Male Attraction Towards Muscular Men by Varangas and colleagues. Interestingly, this research establishes a non-linear, and they quote it as a quadratic relationship with attractiveness rating and improved body fat and muscle composition. Lower body fat, higher muscle. So the more muscle you gain, the less body fat you have, the greater your attractiveness ratings go. And this effect is not linear. It increases towards the upper ends of the extreme. When we take a look at the data, it backs up what a lot of fitness YouTubers have been saying for years, that around the 10% body fat range with a medium level of muscle tone is undeniably very attractive, and probably the most attractive according to this piece of data. How does this relate back to the video? Well, it goes back to the core tenet that there is a amount of body fat and muscle tone that is attractive or more attractive than others. That should be pretty obvious, but also that the attractiveness benefits of getting closer and closer to that ideal is not linear, but actually quadratic. So you get more benefit the closer you are to that proximity of 10% and medium levels of muscle tone. You don't need to look like Chris Bumstead to get a desirable physique, and you also don't necessarily need to be 10% body fat as long as you're around that range, which could be like 12%, 13, 14%, even 15. It should be fine. Okay, so it seems like they're rating the men on style now. Let's get into it.
I don't think I have a style. This is just gym shorts and a t-shirt.
You should be number 1.
Okay,
I think
I'll take that.
definitely the most flashy.
No oppose.
I think it works. Well, you guys have the confidence to rock the stuff that I don't. The judgment always weighs on me when I go out in public like
When I was in
that.
4th grade, I bought a beret at Macy's that I thought looked so cool.
This is my hot take, and you don't have to agree with it, but just because something is avant-garde or it's flashy or it's out of the box, it's non-conformist, doesn't necessarily mean that it is a good piece of outfit. Okay, so this is on the Koo's website. It's on the second article, Can Physical Beauty Be Improved? And I want to point out something here. It says, in art, there are 3 types of aesthetic qualities: imitationalism, formalism, and emotionalism. And the point being is that there are design rules to everything in life that makes it good or bad. Okay, so hopefully you guys understand the philosophical idea of a critical framework, meaning that there is some sort of beauty standard, whether it be for art or for faces or for style, that we can criticize what makes something good and what makes something bad by. So by that standard, the guy on the left his outfit doesn't actually do him any other favors other than just being, look at me, I'm flashy, I'm flamboyant, I'm camp. In comparison, the gentleman right next to him, Vashon, I think his name is also androgynous, is also nonconformist in his outfits, but he does so in a much more coherent way. And what I mean by that is that there are many frameworks that we can judge what a good outfit is by. We can say it's to keep you warm. If in that case, we'll probably say jean jacket guy looks like he has a very warm outfit. It could be to show your status symbol. Pink jacket guy, his jacket could cost thousands of dollars. And so if we're following this idea that there are good and bad outfits, because we're looking at it through a framework of criticism, which is that outfits should make you look better, they should complement your features, then the best outfits, logically, are those that complement your face and your body. And I would say that Vashon is actually doing a very good job because he might have a masculine face. He's got masculine facial features such as the wide facial midface, the shorter brow, the shorter forehead, the square jawline. Despite having those features, he can still wear the more slender, effeminate clothing because his body is tall and narrow. In comparison, this other gentleman has a much wider body, a much more masculine body with wider shoulders, a narrower waist, a better shoulder to waist ratio, even though he actually arguably has a more effeminate face than Vashon, and yet the outfit doesn't do him any justice. And so we're comparing two quite different looking people, and yet they're both trying to dress more alternatively with completely different aesthetic outcomes. And the reason for that, as I explained, is because of something called the concept of silhouettes. Now, I've explained this, maybe I touched on this like 2 years ago, and I don't really want to go into too much in detail here, but imagine that Vashon has more of a rectangular body shape and Michael, I keep forgetting his name, has much of a wider, top-heavy body shape, and they completely different outlines of each other, and that's why the idea of silhouettes comes from, if it's not obvious. And you may notice that fashion models tend to be more of the rectangular silhouette, the Vashon silhouette, and they tend to do this because clothes do look better when they're proportioned out over a longer distance, so you can actually appreciate the distances of the torsos and the legs, the femurs and the tibias. As with all types of outfits, if you're really trying to dress for a particular style, then my advice would be to firstly tailor your clothes for the body shape. As we see in these two examples, one is tailored to the body shape, the other one is not, and so it looks drastically different in aesthetic outcomes. And then I would say tailor it to the face, because we see it doesn't really matter as much. Vashon is wearing effeminate clothing on a masculine face. The other gentleman is wearing more effeminate clothing on a more effeminate face. And yet it really doesn't matter as much, but there is some aspects that do add to it. Like if I were to Photoshop Vashon with a buzz cut, it may look a little different and change his face around a bit. And lastly, the hair does also help. Growing out your hair if you're trying to go for a more pretty boy look, cutting it short if you want to look more like a drill sergeant. Having a discontinuity between those three elements of your style or your outward appearance can be either jarring, and it can create some disharmony basically. And you can do that on purpose, like this guy's done it just for the loud shock value of it, or you can try to make things work and just try to more blend in and look aesthetic for the sake of being aesthetic rather than trying to be loud and proud, I guess. All right, so they're talking about masculinity now.
Emotions.
Honestly, growing up, masculinity was taught to me as pretty much just an absence of emotion. I knew that that was wrong, so I've just been like, masculinity, femininity, it's not even real. We're just taking traits that all humans can have and applying a word to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I stand. I'd like to just throw myself at the end.
I'll go with you. 'Cause I don't like the modern version of masculinity, so I wouldn't associate myself with it.
It all kind of boils down to like hormones, if that makes sense, and like testosterone versus estrogen.
Naturally, our testosterone levels are going to drop as we get older. Does that make us less of a man in your eyes then? Because like, okay.
I don't think less of a man. I don't think less masculine either.
Okay, so then should that be a valid argument in terms of masculinity?
Okay, so this guy's brought up a interesting talking point that a lot of people, especially more conservative people, like to bring up when there's discussions of masculinity, what it means to be a man, you know, etc., etc. But he has contradicted himself that if being a man is about the hormones, then does a declining man's hormones make him less of a man? And he said, no, it doesn't. By under his definition, it should. There is a difference between gender, which is a social construct, and sex, which is a biological construct. On Cooves, we're always talking about social versus biology, cultural versus biology. So it's very important for us that we distinguish between the two and we never use the two interchangeably. I might have in the past for the channel, but generally I try to be very specific. When I'm talking about sex, I'm talking about male and femaleness. And when I'm talking about genders, we can talk about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. This guy is talking about is the male and femaleness. And in biology, this is called sexual dimorphism.
I don't think less masculine either.
Okay, so then should that be a valid argument in terms of masculinity?
I guess when I see a man, like I was able to see like kind of straight away, like where you guys stood, if that makes sense. Like I saw you guys as more feminine. I think a man, it's more about like dominance, if that makes sense.
Do you think I'm less dominant than you?
It's like facial wise. I don't know, I can't explain it.
Okay, well, he said it there. He said facial wise, he's talking about sexual dimorphism. He could see that some people were less sexually dimorphic than the others. And, now when you put it into those terms, it makes a lot of sense for you guys, hopefully. However, if we check the title of this video, it's ranking men by looks. So realistically, they should be looking at the sexual dimorphism definition of masculinity, not really talking about the stepdad who stepped up type of sob stories. That's not the title of the video, and there's a time and place for that, but it's not what this video is about.
Okay, so yeah, you base it on more physical, and that's totally fine. Yeah, that's totally
All right,
fine.
facial attractiveness, that's me. Time for me to bust out the commentary.
You have a very nice smile. That's what I noticed. You have a very, very nice smile.
I have a lot of moles, and I don't have a lot of moles on the rest of my body. It's just I just look like a chocolate chip cookie. And then I got
Chip cookies are hot.
and then I got my scar from when I busted my lip playing tag on crutches like a couple of months after my amputation. I think I'm lower.
He's talking about the scar and the moles. It's true, he does have a decent amount of moles, but that is not the determining factor for what makes somebody attractive or not. Oh my God. I say this all the time. People who are not in the know tend to think that it is very superficial, surface level things that make them the make or break between being attractive or not. They can't be a 10 because they have all these moles on their face and this little scar from when he was 10. That's not the reason. And if you were to point out otherwise, that would be politically incorrect. And God forbid Jubilee ever be politically incorrect, because that would imply that there is some kind of structural anomaly that has to be corrected, either orthodontically or surgically. And if you can't do that, then you just feel bad about yourself, and we can't have that. It would also mean that there is a chance that your face didn't develop to its fullest potential. And this is something many orthodontists around the world have been saying. This is well known, that faces do have a genetic blueprint, and due to environmental factors, they may reach that potential or they may fall short and may not achieve their full facial aesthetic. Those are things we don't talk about because they're uncomfortable truths. And we know that there are such things as good and bad faces, good and bad facial development and aesthetics and attractiveness, because attractive and unattractive faces do exist by some framework of criticism, in the same way that I can tell you what a good style outfit is by establishing a definition, or tell you what good artwork is through a formalist or an emotionalist lens. We can do the same with faces. So faces aren't subjective. You just have to define it properly as to what you're assessing the faces by.
Something like
Off.
No. Like there's something.
No, like I say that because
They're trying so hard. Come on. He said off and the guy backpedaled so hard. What are you doing?
I've had an underbite my entire life, and I got made fun of a lot in middle school and in high school on the internet, that people think I have features of someone who has Down syndrome because of the almond-shaped eyes, the underbite, kind of just like this weird looking. So I'm completely fine staying where I am. Totally fine with that. I'm just saying, I get what you mean. There's just something off.
Wait, let's talk about these almond-shaped eyes, because that's always been a beauty symbol for me.
Yeah, that is true. He's not wrong. We made the video on that. But his almond-shaped eyes aren't actually the same as his almond-shaped eyes. You see the width, the aspect ratio of the eyes are completely different. Just because they have the shape of an almond, you can have the shape of a disfigured almond and it'd still be an almond. Get what I'm saying? I'm not saying he has disfigured almond eyes, but
That's what I hearing.
but it's not because of the shape of the eyes. They're shorter, but also they're more inwards towards the face rather than outwards like the other guys. What this means is they're the more close set.
Where are you from? Who's doing this?
And this guy's just so sick of it. He's just so sick of the pandering. It's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Who did this?
The internet.
We'll be
Give me their names.
And also, just to call out, even if you had Down syndrome, I don't think that would eliminate you from being the most attractive spot.
I agree.
I would say that it would impact your physical appearances because Down syndrome is one of those characteristic anomalies which is represented on the face. There are a lot of genetic ailments that are not shown on the face, like cystic fibrosis. If you said that about cystic fibrosis, which is in your lungs, I wouldn't be able to see. It wouldn't affect the way you look. Then I probably wouldn't. Then this statement may be true. But if Down syndrome does affect the way you look, it gives you a very characteristic look. That does have a penalizing effect.
Where would you put yourself here? Be honest, it's okay.
I think second to first.
Second to first? I think I'd put you third because I think your jawline's way stronger than mine. I put you right here, personally.
Damn.
Objections.
That is.
No, no. I think you have
He said second to first, and he said second to first, and the guys humbled him at third.
really nice facial features, so for sure.
That being said, this guy's definitely first. Like, this is just pandering. I'm saying it.
You're almost like one of those elves in like Lord of the Rings or something like that.
Please.
A very sharp nose as
We're
well.
not getting nerdy here.
Also, I like your confidence. Like, you have this cool confidence. I think that's part of attractiveness too.
Yeah.
Okay, then if that's the case, why? If he looks like literally Legolas, why isn't he at the top then?
Yeah, so I would personally place you higher up. I don't know where.
Number one, dude.
Okay.
What does overall beauty even mean? Do you see what I'm saying about Jubilee? They just what does that even mean? Like, do we just try to figure it out? Like,
Do you want to be higher?
Cool, I feel like especially like keeping you up in number one, it's kind of like you have the humbleness to yourself.
That really like resonates well with me because like I said, I don't like attention.
You guys have more, I feel like, extroverted personalities.
So you're more introverted.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yourself.
so he's last for overall beauty. I feel like the other guys didn't like him, and maybe it's just because he had more conservative talking points. I don't know. We made this video on toxic positivity, and I feel like that's what's going on here, because in a lot of scenarios, when we did the data analysis of all the comments people were given, the less attractive individuals were given more positive comments, more pandering, and the more attractive individuals were given more negative criticisms. There is no way, even for overall beauty, I guess they didn't like his personality, but to put him last is ridiculous because this guy didn't say a single thing. He was quiet the whole time, and I know for a fact that if you add personality and physical appearances, this guy is not higher up than this guy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what? And these guys are just fighting out the spot with rock, scissors, papers?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Number two.
No, I won. I get to stay here. I won my choice.
I don't get it.
They're fighting over who can be lower. Do you see that? They're fighting over who can be lower. It's just a race to the bottom for each of these guys. And this guy's rightfully pissed, and I understand. I empathize. This hasn't been in any sense fair, and I feel like it's just been a waste of time for everyone involved. Yeah, so looking at the comments, somebody said, should have ranked them anonymously at the start and then shown the final ranking at the end. Group mentality weighs in a lot. The final ranking was shambles. Yeah, I do agree. There wasn't any sense of integrity to any of these rankings. Nobody was being genuine. There was many slip-ups and contradictions. Even in the other guy as well, Michael, I think his name was, made a lot of contradictions in how he rates masculinity. You know, everyone was just saying things for the sake of saying them. When you have videos like this, and they're very undefined in their parameters for what they're judging each other on, then obviously it's going to feel like beauty is just in the air because no one can agree on anything. You know, this guy's last in one section and now he's first. But I suppose it doesn't really matter because Jubilee has accomplished their goal. In making a mainstream video, this is one of the challenges you're always going to face, that you have to keep it PG-13. I do want to recreate these social experiments and at least have a bit more scientific rigor or integrity to them, you know, using double-blind tests or not letting the participants speak to each other, having more consistency across the participants and the faces themselves, and also, most importantly, being clear on definitions, like, are we talking about sexual dimorphism, masculinity as a social construct? What are we rating these people by when we talk about rating by faces? So if that's something you'd like to see us do on this channel, we will be doing it this year, then obviously subscribe. As always, if you'd like to get your face assessed and learn about your own physical features from our team of doctors and dentists, then you can head over to the Coos website and order an aesthetics report to learn how you can improve the way you look.